Hi guys, welcome back to From PSD to HTML5. My name is Dan Wellman, and in this lesson we're going to look at the most basic way of slicing out images in Photoshop, and that's using the marquee tool. So this is a workable way of obtaining the necessary images depending on how image heavy the site is going to be. CSS3 obviously now gives us a lot of styles that negate the need for as many images as was the case a few years back. But still, if the site is very heavily image-based, then this might not be the best technique to use. But let's take a look. So let's just open up the homepage templates, and we can get that from the Open Recent list there. Ignore the font warning. So the marquee tool is this one here. And if we just zoom right in a bit, so that's obviously the Control+ keyboard shortcut there. So one of the things that we're going to need to cut out is the logo, the Mumbo logo. And to use the marquee, we just need to click and drag around the thing that we want to select. So we've got the logo selected now. But really what we should do is to cut the logo as tightly as possible so that really we end up with just the logo in the image and not all of this surrounding whiteness stuff, because then obviously if the design changed at some point in the future and the header was made blue or something like that, if we had like a bunch of white fringing around the logo, then that would obviously be a pain, and we'd have to recut that against the blue background and it would just be a nightmare. So really we want to make this as tight as we can. So I'm going to show you this now. I don't know whether or not you'll already know about this. It actually took me a few years, if I'm honest, before I realized that you could do this. And one time I was sat working with a designer and did this, and they said, whoa, I didn't even know you could do that. So if there's designers out there that don't know about this feature, then there's probably web developers out there that don't know about this feature as well. So I'm just going to explain it to you now. So what I used to do is think, you know, I've used the marquee tool, but it's not quite right. I better click somewhere on the page to turn it off, and then I'll try and line that up as best I can. And you've got to be really precise now. And you know, if you let go at the wrong point, crap, I've got to start again. So, you know, you don't need to do that. So let's just make a rough selection again. And if we go into the select menu there, and we can just choose transform selection, and then we get these nice resize handles around the edge, you know, so we can just make that as tight as we need to, and really we can zoom right in just so that we can get a good idea of what we're slicing out. And actually with the marquee selected, if you use the arrow keys on the keyboard, you know, you can move that around. So let's just get this lined up nice and tight. The latest version of Photoshop as well, while I'm actually changing the height here, you can see there's a tooltip on the screen that actually shows you what the current height is. So that's a new feature of CS6, I believe. So that's super useful. Okay, so right, that's nice and tight now, so that's fine. Obviously the image, really we want to make the images, each image as small as possible, so there's no point, you know, having a massive outline around something, because it's just going to make the image bigger. So that's nice and tight now. And what we probably want to do now as well is just turn off the background layers so that we can save the image out with a transparent background. And again, if any of the colors of the site change, then we don't need to go through and recut a bunch of images. So yeah, always use transparent PNGs where possible. The layers panel here is where you'll spend a lot of time as a developer. So we need to find this white layer here. So we could, you know, look through all of these layer groups. So you know, where could it be? And this PSD is actually much more organized than many of the PSDs I've been given in the past. So everything's labeled, you know, and here we can see the background layers are, you know, clearly labeled. So, you know, it wouldn't be very hard to find the layers we wanted in this case, but believe me, it's not always the case at all. You know, we could have thousands of layers, and related layers might not necessarily be next to each other in the layers panel. And it can be a bit of a chore sometimes to find the layer that you actually need. So a quick way of doing that, if we select the move tool and just make sure that auto select is ticked and it's set to layer, then when we click anywhere, it will automatically select the layer for us. Great. So now we can switch that off, and we just need to keep doing that until we get down to a transparent background. So this doesn't actually work. I can't click to select this layer, and the reason for that is because the layer is locked. So the background layer is often locked in PSDs, so we can just switch that off ourselves manually. That's fine. So now we've got our logo on a nice transparent background, and we can go into edit, and then if we use copy merged, then we don't have to have the layer that the logo is on selected. So we've copy merged. Now we can go to new, and we can just say a new document with a transparent background. It's already sized exactly correctly, and we just paste in the logo, and then we can save that out. So we'll save for web. We use the save for web dialog, not just save, because if we just save, it will save it as a PSD. And obviously we don't want to display PSDs on a web page. So we'll set it to PNG. It's already set to PNG. It gives us the sizes here and the quality and stuff. So there's a bit of information to take in. And it will ask where to save it. And we'll stick it in our images folder. And we'll give it a nice name, obviously, so that we know what it is. I mean, this is all kind of standard stuff. We'll call it logo. There we go. So one thing that Photoshop tends to do from time to time, it seems a little random. I don't know, maybe if it's a bug in the application, but if we zoom right into our logo here, we can see that Photoshop's automatically added like a feather all around the edge of our logo. So we've got some transparency now in the actual logo. And if we just go back to the original PSD, and we'll press Control D to deselect that, we can see that there is no feather around this. It's solid at the edges. So that's a pain, and that's quite common. So we'll just get rid of that, because that's really of no use to us. So if we reselect that, then what we want to do, if we go back to the selection and then hit the Refine Edges button, then we can shift edge to 100%, and it won't actually make any visible difference in here. But if we edit and then copy merged again, we'll create a new document once again, and just paste that in. If we zoom right in, then we can see that there's no feather now. So we've got the edge nice and sharp, exactly as it should be. There's no weird kind of transparency around the edge, so that's exactly what we want. So we'll save that again, and we'll just overwrite the one that I saved just a minute ago. That's fine. We do want to replace it. Good. Easy to fix, but it can be confusing at first, especially if you're new to Photoshop and you don't really know your way around the application much yet. And we'll just close that down. We've already saved that out. Okay, so yeah, if we zoom right in, then we'll see that there's this kind of wavy pattern in the background here, so we'll need to cut that out as well. We probably want to hide a few of these layers up here just so that we can get a nice clean bit of the wave. And obviously, because it's a repeated background, we need to cut it right so that it repeats correctly. So we'll just switch off a few more of these layers. We'll just give ourselves a nice big working area here. And we'll just use the marquee tool again, and we probably want to cut from kind of the middle of one peak to the middle of the next peak. So I've kind of cheated anyway, because I've already cut this out once, so I know how big it needs to be, and actually it needs to be 162 pixels wide. So we'll go with that, and we'll just copy merged, go to a new file, and we'll paste this in, and then we can just save that out exactly as we did before. Save for web, we'll go with the defaults, and we'll call this one wave. So in this part we looked at using the marquee tool to select an area of the page, and we can then copy that out to a new file and save it in the required format. So this is the most basic way of cutting out images in Photoshop. It gives us a high degree of precision, but it can be time consuming. So over the course of this whole lesson, we've only cut out 2 pictures. So if there were lots and lots of images to cut out, then that process would obviously take quite a long time, probably longer than it needs to. But With the PSDs that we're working from in this course, it would probably be alright to just manually go through and slice out all of the images using the marquee tool, because there aren't a great many of them. But in the next lesson, we're going to look at a faster way of dividing the PSD up in order to cut out more images at a time. Thanks for watching.